Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good wherever in the world you are. Hope you're having a good day.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Hypnotic Rambles, episode 9.
See, I didn't even make the attempt at even guessing what the number was this time. And today we're talking about self-talk.
Yes, so important.
It
So
is, isn't it?
important.
And it's the one thing we do for ourselves all the time.
So, what would you say would be the first and most important thing to know about self-talk? Or what's the first
Um,
step?
what's the first step in
Mm-hmm.
identifying the language that we speak to ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be, getting all serious now straight off, but because that's not like us, but there you go. Um, it identifies the way we speak to ourselves.
Yes.
It's more often than not, we speak to ourselves in a way that we wouldn't speak to anyone else.
Yeah.
That's probably because we know ourselves better and maybe we expect more from ourselves.
And I like that. I think that's spot on. Absolutely spot on. Is the self-expectation.
But self-expectation is correct, um, but we're looking at it in hindsight
Yes.
because, like, in a particular moment, we couldn't have done what we wanted to do. Otherwise, we would have done it. Now, there's a very important differential here.
Okay.
Okay, so here it is. Because you could use that last statement I said as a justification that I don't do things, or you don't do things, or anyone doesn't do things, right?
Yeah.
And it's not meant in that way. It's meant in a way that if we have a target, a goal, something we're working towards, why limit ourselves by hammering ourselves? It's not meant as an excuse for not doing things. It's actually meant as a why just not be nice to ourselves as we would be to anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really
Absolutely.
the way it's meant because then it allows us to keep striving and pushing and making our lives better, whatever way that is for each and every one of us, because it's all different.
Yeah, and I think what really helps, I mean, for me, what really helped when I got into this whole words and self-talk and language is to really think about every single thing that I think about and I'm aware of, right? Because obviously I can't know all the thoughts that go through my mind, or at least I'm not aware of. But is to so anything that I say about myself or my behavior, my actions, my results, my successes or unsuccess, is to would I say those words to a child, to my own child,
That's a lovely way to look at it.
right? Because if my child is learning to ride a bicycle and I keep telling them, oh, you're so stupid. Why did you fall? Can't you just know how to do it? And because this is exactly what we say to ourselves in those moments, straight I'm sure everyone today no I wouldn't, I would never,
Mhm.
I would encourage them, so why do we say it to ourselves? So I taught myself to think of that and then slowly became aware of what is the language that I speak to myself. And and interestingly, even using languages, words, in a funny way.
Yes,
Sometimes I say, oh, I'm so stupid, but that has power too, because if I say that over and over and over again, even if I laugh for weeks, months, and years, um, there's going to be proof after a
absolutely.
while.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, I'm always amazed and it's something that I point out to people all the time, and I have to keep reminding to point it out to myself too at times because we all go through stuff and we all kind of I suppose our programming, for want of a better term, gets us to where we are in terms of the language we speak, not only to others, but to ourselves.
Yeah,
And it's funny because as kids, you might be taught, be respectful to your elders, talk properly, da da da. But no one can tell you to do that for yourself because they can't hear the words that you're using to yourself.
so true.
You know, so that's a really interesting one. But what I find really interesting is, and it ties into this whole thing of logical levels. And I'm really big into logical levels
Oh, I
because
know.
I love that as an explanation of where behaviors and all that stuff comes from. But the top of that is identity level, which is the I am statements. So if you were to do a course on, say, positive affirmations, change your life through positive affirmations, you'll always be told to put it in the positive, use I am, and use it in the present tense.
Yeah.
And so many of the words we speak to ourselves, we don't do that. And even when we don't mean to do that, sometimes we'll do it. Now, that's a really confusing statement. So let me explain. Um, I can't give you the Hungarian version of this, so I can only give it to you in Irish, right? But in Irish, there's an expression, say, tá brón. And in English, what we'd say is, I am sad.
Hmm.
In Irish, tá brón means sadness is upon me. It's not who I am.
Ah,
In English, we say, I
what?
am sad. Now, I know we don't mean that. We know it's temporary. But the way our minds interpret language, and we keep repeating, I am overweight, I am fat, I am ugly, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm whatever, I'm useless. We start to
Yeah.
build that in at the identity level, which is the hardest level to shift from because that's who we are.
Yeah, because we identify with it. I often explain it in a way that, or ask people to just close their eyes and just say it out loud. I'm useless, or I'm a failure,
Mm,
and just repeat it. How does it feel? What do you experience? And then shake it off, open your eyes, and then close your eyes again, and then just say, I am experiencing failure, or so not identifying it, but use a different language, different way of saying it. And every single time so far, everyone reported back that, oh, it feels different. It's not so heavy.
mm.
So you can actually feel the energy of it.
Yeah, so it's recognizing the behavior or the mood in that
Yeah.
moment, but it's not who you are. It is just something that you've been experiencing in that moment. And but there's a consistency to that because you have to, and I don't mean you have to catch each and every one of them. The momentum tends to gather, but if
Yeah.
you can catch more of the negatives and replace them with positives, then less, you'll eventually shift over time and you'll graduate to using more positive language for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, because, one of my other favorite expressions is action speaks louder than words. And that's the ultimate thing. But the words we use direct the actions. You know, if we don't use the words, we haven't a chance of getting the actions. So we
So
need to
true.
use the right words for ourselves. And that's
Yeah.
really the point. It's ultimately about being nice to ourselves.
So I'd like to move back to what you've mentioned before, to affirmations,
Yes.
because from so many places you can learn. You need to use affirmations, right? You need to say them to yourself. But oftentimes we can actually feel that it's a lie.
Yes.
And I always say, let's use that to our advantage, right? So if I say to myself, I'm abundant, but then straight away I'm not, I'm not resonating with it. It feels a lie. So what do I say to myself that is going to prove that I am not resonating with it? Because if I am becoming aware of those thoughts, right? So I say I am abundant, and I say no, I'm not. I'm poor. I've got nothing. So these are the words and sentences that we are saying to ourselves.
Hmm.
So instead of keep working on the I am abundant, let's work on the what we say, which is the opposite negative. And then let's start from there.
Well, if you wanted to do that, you could say, I am becoming abundant. Now, the other
Yes.
side of it
Yeah.
is you could look around and you could go, abundance is different levels.
Yeah.
So I'm abundant at one level, just not the level I want to be at.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the thing about watching the words that we use and the expectations that we create of ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, And ultimately, it's a result of programming.
Yeah, but I think, and that's just my own opinion again, it is important to recognize the negative part of. So why can't I um, feel when I say sometimes, the positive affirmations, why don't I not resonate with it? What are the self-talks that I
That's this
am having,
because
and then we can work on that.
yeah,
So it
because you
doesn't feel like a lie.
yeah, but even there's that whole thing of the NLP process of stepping into something.
Mm,
When you are in that moment, you're stepping into it, but what you're doing is you're becoming familiar with that.
yes, yes.
So I mean, you don't necessarily have to believe it in one of the other ways that has been described in many times as fake it till you make it. That you just um that you just keep saying it, keep thinking it, keep feeling it until such a time as it actually becomes the right thing for you.
Yeah, because that's the exact programming or condition that we go through when we feel not good enough or any beliefs like that. We
Yeah,
kept hearing it maybe,
correct.
and
Or
then
there was examples
yeah,
with emotion in particular that might have, and there might have been one, there might have been more than one, but normally it's a collection of these things that just
yeah.
builds up over time that reinforces stuff.
Because after a while we do identify with them. So if I keep hearing growing up that I'm lazy, at some point I will reach a point where I'm going to say, "Oh, I'm just lazy,"
Yeah, yeah.
and I become it. I
No,
literally,
one of two things will happen. You'll go, yes, I'll become lazy, or I'm going to prove to you I'm not, and you'll be not lazy.
yeah, yeah,
Exact opposite.
yeah.
But very little in between. But I know in the past I've used this analogy, and I think this is why words are also important. But ultimately, this ties into beliefs, which I know is where we'll end up having to get to. But um, Google, Facebook, YouTube, they all use an algorithm based on the things you watch all the time. They keep showing it to you more and more.
Mm,
But if you keep saying those words to yourself, our brains are the same type of algorithm. Your reticular activating system that's back at the back of your head. Um, it keeps pointing out the things that you actually keep saying to yourself that you keep believing because they're important to you. Keep showing
mm.
them. I'm stupid. Okay, I'm going to keep showing that I'm stupid. I'm going to keep showing I'm stupid.
And this is so, so important to know about our mind that it cannot think in a way that we can with our conscious mind. The subconscious part, which means whatever we say, it will say, "Oh, all right." It takes it as a fact. And it will guide us through this proving process, right? So if I keep saying to myself, I'm a failure, it's going to guide me to more failures so I can prove it to myself, yes, I am a failure.
That's good. Well, if the model, and remember this is a model because
Only
all
a
we're talking
model
about is
and
models,
just opinions.
but if the model of the conscious stroke unconscious mind is that the conscious mind can only process seven plus or minus two things at any one point in time, and the algorithm is feeding on the beliefs that you have, which were the words you used in the first place to get yourself into those beliefs,
Yeah.
then oh, here's something that can show that you're a failure. Great, let's point that out. And that's what it does.
Yeah. So
But it's our brain's algorithm.
what we are saying here is that it's important to be kinder to ourselves and always talk to yourselves the way you would talk to other people. Because I bet on anything that nobody would talk to other people in a
Yeah,
way that they talk to themselves.
that's a beautiful way to put it. That really is. It's about being kind to ourselves.
Yeah. And if you feel it, then you're not you don't get the result. I don't even like, to be honest, saying that, I failed at something, because failure is only a feedback, isn't it? It's a term
Absolutely.
in NLP. And if I don't get the result that I want, I have taught myself to look at it in a way that, okay, what do I need to do differently so I get the result that I want? And just keep um, doing it, tweaking.
Yeah.
some steps, whatever I need to tweak to get a different result instead of beating myself up for failing, because
Yeah.
that's such a harsh word. And it's a word where almost, and it's again, to me, it feels and that there is no other options, no more opportunities. When I say that, okay, I have failed, it's like that's it, that's the end. The road has ended. And it's like
Mhm.
that's why I don't like it, because it's almost like there's nothing afterwards. But if I say, okay, I just got a different result, so what can I do differently? Then I'm already kinder to myself. I am
Yeah.
in a different state. I am in an almost, no, not almost, I am putting myself into an uplifting state, because there's state where my mind starts to think of
Well,
options and
let's
solutions.
let's let's use an analogy because, um, can you drive?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And the first time you drove, did you make mistakes?
Oh, yes, I did.
So if you had told yourself the first time you drove that I'm a failure at driving, so I'm never going to drive again, how different would your life be?
Probably yeah, I wouldn't have a car. I wouldn't
Yeah.
drive.
And I mean, I could talk to you about Thomas Edison and the thousand times it took him to get it right, or however many it was. And people have heard that story many times. But when you actually break it down into our own life, as children, when we started to learn to walk, we fell many times. If we told ourselves we were a failure, we'd still
Yeah,
be here.
nobody would walk.
Absolutely. You know,
We would
so
still
it
shuffle and
is
walk.
about treating ourselves with the same kindness that we treat others, because ultimately, and I don't want this to be a metaphysical conversation, but ultimately, the person we spend the most time with is ourselves.
But it is true. That's the
You know,
truth. It's a
like
fact.
we're with ourselves 24/7
And we talk to ourselves the most,
all the time.
having the conversation. I mean, I love having conversations with myself. I never talk. I always agree
That's the
with
main thing. Once you're not talking back, we're all right.
myself.
Or if
I
you do,
do as
yeah.
I'm told.
If you do, you have the cover of it's a part of you, yeah.
But yeah, yeah. And again, if somebody finds it a bit difficult, then think about yourself, like, as a child, would you talk to them that way? And you
Yeah,
wouldn't. Then why would you talk to yourself? Just because you're an adult, you still deserve kindness and compassion and
and
empathy,
that's the
and
thing. Yeah, it really is about being our own best friends, isn't it?
absolutely.
And using those words that we would reflect as our own best friends because we are with ourselves 24/7. Um, but the other thing then just for, and most any hypnotherapist listening to this will be more than aware, but where do we get these words from? This
Oh, we
method.
learn, we learn, we learn these words as we're growing up, from other people. What we hear is ultimately what becomes these mantras in our mind, I think. And because we learn it, we can unlearn it, we can change it.
Well, that's the thing, but we have to be aware of it first. And
Mm.
even then, I mean, we had a conversation a few weeks ago on regression to cause and whether we needed to use that or not. And I'm not going back there, but no, and it because my view, I use it and it's fine, and but I only use it when I need to use it. But
Yeah, same here.
and it's a bit like if we keep hearing the same thing over and over again, or if there's some experience that taught us and we was such emotion attached to it that it was such a shock to the system that we immediately learned I'm a failure, let's say in that case, that we apply it to every aspect of our lives, then what is the process for changing it? I mean, and the first one is obviously identifying it.
Yeah, it's to become aware. And I think a really easy way to do is to get a pen and paper and start to write down, what do you think about yourself?
Yes.
Because that will show you how positively you see yourself or how negatively. And the more negative things you put down, the more negatively you talk to yourself. So just start to think, okay, I am this, I am that, I am that. And
Yeah.
then all the negatives will come out, like if you don't like your body, if you don't like any. personality traits or any behaviors, anything at all in your life. And I think that's a great way to start. Do you have any other?
Well, I
Um,
mean, there's affirmations is something that we've identified. So if there's something that somebody wants, but I mean, and that is one really good way to do it because it is fake it until you make it, and it is kind of alerting that part of your brain to go, okay, I am abundant, I am
yeah.
successful, I am whatever that word is that you're trying to replace. Um, and the other side of it then is that there's a program that runs with that thought.
Mm,
And that program can be from one event that one significant event that kicked off or a couple of significant events, or it can be from just constant repetition of being told, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. So we can either, I love the analogy of, you know, we can just replace the pipe that's flowing that thought, if you like, if you want to take it as we can replace that pipe, or we can just lay a new pipe and let the other one just fade and drift away over time. There's two ways to do
yes.
it. The quickest way, obviously, is to replace the pipe. That's the literally quickest way. You just take it out and replace it with, and of course, that's where hypnosis is really good because it allows us to find the reason behind it, or we find the program behind it, more so through the emotion. Um, and then replace it with the opposite, with what it is that we want in its place. So instead of stress, we want calm. I'm stressed. No, I want to be calm. I'm a failure. No, I'm successful. And we can, whether that's stuff like kinetic shift, whether it's parts work, whatever it is that because ultimately it is just a program that we're running. I mean, a belief is just literally a thought we keep thinking. So if we change the way we think about something, and the only way we do that is by changing the words we use to ourselves.
Yeah. So true. So with that, we can bring it, I think, to a close. And so the main part is be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Talk to yourself in a way that you would talk to another person, or more importantly, to another child, or not another, but to a child. Because that way you can absolutely recognize as well.
Absolutely. And I'd even go further because for me, it's about treating yourself as your own best friend because you are your own best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that
You're
too.
the one with you 24/7. And ultimately, it's about treating yourself with the same kindness that you treat anyone else because you deserve it.
Yeah. So you can enjoy your own company, so
Absolutely.
others can enjoy it even more.
Great. Now you have it.
But it's all coming down to everyone deserves to hear kind words, whether it's
Yes.
from other people or whether it's just in the head. But
But I suppose the takeaway for people is the first step is to be aware of those words that we're
yeah,
using about
yeah.
ourselves, first and
So
foremost.
write down what you think about yourself,
Yeah.
and that way we will
Or even be
things.
aware that when something goes wrong, for whatever reason, whether it's something
Yes.
falls, whether it's something breaks, whether it's something didn't work out the way you wanted, notice how you responded.
Oh, or reacted.
Yeah, just notice how you respond, but it's not about how you respond to others, it's about how you respond to yourself.
Yes, yes, of course, yeah,
And it's the words
yeah,
that you use to yourself.
yeah.
And that's really the point. And that becomes the first basis for change. And then after that, yeah, the rest can be changed by repetition, i.e. affirmations, which is a good way to do it. It just takes it takes a bit of time,
Yeah.
or through hypnosis in some shape or form, because ultimately somebody has a belief that gives them those words. They've just been hypnotized into believing it. So our job is to dehypnotize them and replace it with something else.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, that's so true. So thank you so much for listening and watching, and please send us your feedback, any questions,
Anything
um,
you'd like to cover?
anything. Yeah, we're happy to
Yeah,
answer,
absolutely.
help you in
Absolutely.
any way we can.
Absolutely. And yeah, and until next time, it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me too. Have a magical day wherever you are.
Absolutely. And see you guys next week.
See you
Have
guys
an
next
amazing
week.
day.
Bye.